Welcome to Star Memoirs, your destination for unforgettable celebrity legacies. Our first news is this. Steven Hassenfeld, CEO of Hasbro, dies at 47. New York, Steven D. Hassenfeld, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Hasbro Incorporated, died Sunday night at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center after a month-long battle with pneumonia. Hassenfeld, 47, died at 5:55 p.m. of pneumonia and cardiac arrest, according to company spokesman Wayne Charnas. Hassenfeld had been in the hospital's intensive care unit since he was admitted 4 weeks ago. The Providence native is credited with the Pawtucket, RI-based company's explosive growth in the 1980s and with creating the modern toy company. One of his last acts for the nation's largest toy company was to engineer the buyout of the financially troubled Coleco Industries of Avon, Connecticut. The $90 million deal was completed 2 weeks ago while Hassenfeld was in the hospital. Hassenfeld also directed the company's acquisition of Milton Bradley Company in 1984. Since 1980, when Hassenfeld became chairman, the company has grown from net revenues of $102.3 million to $1.3 billion last year. Hassenfeld earned a high school diploma at the Moses Brown School in Providence and went on to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. However, he left the university while he was a senior in 1964 and went to work for Hasbro, which was founded by his grandfather and two relatives in 1923. During his illness, Hassenfeld's brother Alan, who is company president, took over the reins of Hasbro. Besides his brother, Hassenfeld is survived by his mother Sylvia of Palm Beach, Florida, and sister Ellen Block of Glencoe, Illinois. Funeral services are scheduled for 11 a.m. Wednesday at Temple Emmanuel in Providence. Hassenfeld will be buried at Lincoln Park Cemetery in Warwick, Rhode Island. Liam Payne remembered in Building the Band Netflix show. Building the Band paid tribute to late guest judge Liam Payne during the Netflix show's premiere episode on Wednesday. Newsweek reached out to a Netflix spokesperson via email for comment. The context. Payne died on October 16 at the age of 31 after falling from a third-floor balcony of a hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. His cause of death was polytrauma, meaning multiple traumatic injuries, according to UK coroner Dr. Roberto Victor Cohen. Prior to his death, the former One Direction member was a judge on Building the Band alongside host and Backstreet Boy A.J. McLean. Other judges on the show include Nicole Scherzinger of the Pussycat Dolls and Kelly Rowland of Destiny's Child. The reality television competition appears to follow a similar format to Love is Blind, where contestants create their own musical groups based on hearing their vocals, rather than seeing what they look like. What to know? The first episode of the new series began with a message from McLean. When we came together to film Building the Band, we never imagined we'd soon be saying goodbye to our friend Liam Payne, the 47-year-old said. Liam is a guest judge in later episodes, and through his presence, we see his deep love for music and his unwavering commitment to helping others find their voice. It's through that spirit that we dedicate this series to Liam and his family. In an interview with Today earlier this month, McLean gave insight into filming with the musician. He lit up any room that he walked into, whether it was the makeup room, dressing room, on set. Wherever he was, he lit up that space with his energy, with his open heart, open mind, he shared. He was just so well-spoken, very supportive, rigorously honest, in a compassionate way. He always spoke from the heart. McLean added that Payne was the coolest dude and an absolute sweetheart, noting that he was not only funny but witty too. Payne rose to fame as one-fifth of One Direction, the boy band formed on The X Factor in 2010 that became a global sensation with hits like What Makes You Beautiful and Story of My Life. The group went on hiatus in 2016, with each member pursuing solo careers. Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has died at the age of 90, according to a statement on his social media pages. Today, our hearts are heavy as we share that Brother Swaggart has finished his earthly race and entered into the presence of his Savior, Jesus Christ, the post on his Facebook page read. What to know? The Reverend had been in critical condition since suffering a heart attack at his home in Baton Rouge on June 14. The Pentecostal televangelist, known for his fire and brimstone sermons, was the country's top-rated TV preacher in the 1980s, with a regular audience of 2 million. However, his image and support took a tumble after a sex scandal involving a prostitute. Swaggart was also the cousin of rock star Jerry Lee Lewis, and country star Mickey Gilley. Information on the preacher's funeral service was not immediately available. Swaggart is survived by his wife, Frances, their son Donnie, and several grandchildren. Swaggart set to be posthumously inducted into Gospel Hall of Fame. Swaggart, who was known as much for his gospel music as his fire and brimstone Pentecostal sermons, is set to be posthumously inducted into the Southern Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame. Some of his songs include, "He Washed My Eyes with Tears," and "Old Gospel Ship." Swaggart was a member of the 2025 class of the Southern Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame and will be officially inducted in the fall. Swaggart was joined by son at the ministry in later years. Jimmy Swaggart led a quieter life in his later years but remained in the pulpit at Jimmy Swaggart Ministries, where he was often joined by his preacher son, Donnie. His radio station continued to broadcast church services and gospel music across 21 states, and even garnered an international audience on the internet. Swaggart's fall from grace. Despite his popularity as a Christian televangelist, Jimmy Swaggart's multiple scandals eventually led to his fall from grace, and his once multi-million-dollar ministry and huge audience dwindled. The Pentecostal preacher was caught on camera with a prostitute in New Orleans in 1988, which led to his defrocking by the Assembly of God denomination. The scandal prompted his infamous, "I have sinned" speech, which he gave with cameras zoomed in on streaking down his face. Sex worker Deborah Murphy, who was photographed with Swaggart, said in a later interview that the preacher paid her to pose nude. Swaggart then took his ministry non-denominational, but just 3 years on, he was pulled over in California with a woman who admitted to being a prostitute he'd picked up. This time there was no teary confession from Swaggart, however. He instead told his Baton Rouge congregation, "The Lord told me it's flat none of your business," per the New York Times. However, the multiple scandals left an impact on his audience, which continued to dwindle through the 2000s. Who was Jimmy Swaggart? Born March 15, 1935, in Faraday, Louisiana, Jimmy Swaggart would spend hours reading his Bible at the age of just 8 years old, his ministry website reads. After learning how to play the piano as a child, Swaggart went on to release a series of gospel albums in 1958 that sold more than 17 million recordings. Swaggart went on to found the Jimmy Swaggart Ministries, which launched a radio program in 1969 titled, The Camp Meeting Hour. The program grew to 700 radio stations at its peak, and the ministry still operates 75 radio stations. It was in the 1970s that Swaggart broke into TV with a 30-minute weekly television program titled, The Jimmy Swaggart Evangelistic Association Presents Jimmy Swaggart. The program was broadcast to more than 3,000 stations plus cable every week, and by the mid-1980s, Swaggart was the biggest TV preacher in the U.S., with his broadcasts reaching 2 million homes. Reaction to Jimmy Swaggart's death has been mixed. Reaction to the death of televangelist Jimmy Swaggart's death has been mixed, with fellow evangelists and pastors paying tribute to the Reverend, while many branded him a hypocrite and were quick to point out his prostitution scandal. Podcaster Haymont Meta branded Swaggart a Christian hypocrite and scamvangelist. Comedian Brian Garr joked that, of all the 80s charlatans who stole our grandmother's money, he was the most fun. I hope the devil takes that into account, JK, hope it's hot down there, buddy. Meanwhile, fellow evangelist Jesse Duplantis said that Swaggart had impacted countless lives with the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the world. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.